Assassin's Creed Shadows has had controversy surrounding it ever since it was revealed that one of the main protagonists would be Yasuke, a black samurai. There have been a lot of people chiming in about political correctness, wokeness, about Yasuke as a person, a black samurai that served in Oda Nobunaga's army, and also about the possibility of both him and his other main protagonist, Naoe, possibly being LGBTQ. Many people say that Japan outright rejects any notion of political correctness or wokeness and that they are outraged about the whole situation. Now in this video, I'm not going to go into the historical nature of Yasuke as a person. Metatron did a really good video about that and he went through everything that I would have said, so I would recommend you watch that video. I'll leave a link in the description below for you to check that out. But in this video, I want to talk about mainly what the Japanese people actually think about the situation, what they're thinking, what their opinions are, what they feel about the situation, what they're angry about, what they're not angry about, and we just want to parse through the bullshit. So this video is going to be split up into 3 separate sections. The comments and reactions to both the main trailer, the gameplay trailer, and also the IGN interview with Ubisoft. And then I'll look at the commentary from a pretty big YouTuber in Japan and just see his comments about the situation in general. Basically translating everything that he says as is. And then I'll finally give an overall summary of everything that I've seen being talked about. So starting off with the first video that was released on May 16th, there were over 4,750 comments as of recording this video right now. And the top rated comments are these, in reverse order. It's amazing that they so brazenly say they didn't want to make a Japanese man the protagonist, despite the game being set in Japan. This is discrimination against Asians using black people as a shield. We should protest more about this. Many of us have been looking forward to this game being set in Japan for over 15 years, but now they have completely ruined all of our expectations. In an interview, it was said, regarding Yasuke, we were first looking for someone who could be our samurai. That is, someone who could be the eyes of those of us who are not Japanese. It's disappointing that Japanese people are not included when they say our. By favoring black people so much, all it resulted in is discrimination against Japanese people. There are actually many people from other different countries commenting on it as well. It felt like every third comment I came across was someone saying, I'm from Malaysia, I'm from Sweden, I'm from Brazil, or something along those lines. In fact, the top rated comment on the video was this one here, and I'll leave a link to the video in question in the description for you to check out for yourself. What I found more interesting was actually the comments on the gameplay footage trailer. Again, in reverse order. There is a part where Yasuke is seen stomping on the head of a fallen opponent. This cannot be overlooked. They're not zombies. So is it really necessary to curb stomp them? That isn't being a samurai, that's being a racist. This next person was actually commenting on the reaction from the old lady in regards to Yasuke. Seeing a black person and saying, you don't seem to be from around here. That's being way too casual, lol. I live out in the countryside of Japan, actually not far from Fukuyama where this particular gameplay footage is being set, about an hour drive away or something like that. And even till today, I still see some people give me kind of weird looks or being surprised to see me walking around in the countryside being such a pasty white Brit. So if I was some tall, big, bulky black guy, being so nonchalant would be the last thing that would happen, especially 300 years ago when immigration was even more scarce, putting it lightly. It's hilarious how in the 16th century Japan, a huge black man is walking around fully armed and none of the villagers are surprised. From a Japanese perspective, this is just a joke, right? It's weird that he's talking about harvest when he's looking at them planting. They're planting rice while the cherry blossom trees are still in bloom? What season is this? Again, some more backstory. Depending on the area, rice is usually planted in late May or early June compared to cherry blossoms when they go in bloom right around, say, late April. I mean, it's not impossible, but extremely unlikely. It would be like saying summer sunflowers in autumn, for example. The Japanese people clear the way and bow their heads to let Yasuke pass as he walks through. Meanwhile, the samurai are massacred. Is this a game that only puts down the Japanese to promote black people? Why are people bowing to some stranger walking around in full armor? It's interesting how everyone is bowing to Yasuke. Now, these comments here aren't talking about how it's weird that Japanese would be bowing to a black person in the first place. What they're mainly pointing out is how weird it is to have such a big person in full heavy armor walking around in an everyday setting. Armor like this is extremely rare, usually reserved for people of the daimyo status, not for the regular samurai class. But putting that aside, even if he did have a set of armor like this, it wouldn't be worn in everyday settings when he's just walking around the town. It would be in storage. The only time it would be out of storage was when he would put it on to go into battle. So if people saw this Goliathan person walking around in all this armor, they would act a very, very different way. He's a stranger to this village, fully decked out in battle armor with weapons out and open for everyone to see. People would be running away, hiding indoors, etc., not giving him a calm bow and just asking them to come to his house. However, the top rated comment was this one. From the developers of Ghost of Tsushima, we wanted to create a game that Japanese players would not feel insulted by. That was the one line we absolutely could not cross. The developers of Tsushima made efforts to understand Japanese history and culture. This is why, even though there may be inconsistencies in the historical accuracy, they managed to get the balance to work as an entertaining piece without making the wrong choices. That's why Japanese people don't hold any ill will towards it. On the other hand, however, Shadows, as seen in the Our Samurai interview, is a work where the developers showed no genuine effort to understand Japanese history or culture. Ubisoft's approach, putting it bluntly, imposes the perspectives of white and black societies onto the Asian society. They considered their own societal viewpoints as the correct ones and tried to fit Asia into that mold, resulting in discrimination and disdain. Shadows crossed the line that Tsushima developers did not, which is why so many Japanese players are disgusted by it. I mentioned it before, but what they're referring to with this Our Samurai quote is from this Famitsu interview. It originally read as, first we were looking for someone who could be our samurai. That is, someone who could be the eyes of those of us who are not Japanese. It has since been edited out to remove the offensive piece, with some people speculating that maybe it was a mistranslation, but regardless, it doesn't matter, the damage was already done. This line has become a sticking point for many Japanese who feel insulted and excluded from their old culture, where they see this as an example of cultural appropriation. As I mentioned before, this controversy has garnered a lot of attention overseas. So it made me actually wonder if any of these comments I'm reading were actually written by actual Japanese, you know? So I decided to go over to Japanese YouTube to see what they were saying. And yeah, there was still a lot of outrage. Several channels have popped up with videos showcasing nothing but comments by players about the situation, each video guiding around 50,000 views each. And recently on IGN Japan, they just released an interview with one of the developers who basically stuck their foot in it. Again, in an attempt to explain their position on why they made the choices that they did. And right off the bat, even before they got into the video, they poured more gasoline on this fire with the thumbnail. We filled in the gaps in history with our story. Again, this is reminiscent of the Our Samurai quote in that previous interview I mentioned earlier, which results in the Japanese players feeling excluded from their own history, from their own culture. Looking at the top comments, we have this. Ubisoft frequently used the term historical in an interview with IGN last month, insisting that the game was based on historical facts. Now it's unreasonable for them to suddenly start calling it fiction. Also, they have not removed the wording legendary real-life samurai regarding Yasuke, still claiming this part as fact, which suggests they do not consider it fiction. And for this comment here, they're actually quoting what the developer was saying.
For those who know their history well, I think that they have a lot to look forward to.
Are they being fucking serious? It's clear that both Ubisoft and IGN think it's okay to discriminate against Japanese people. I don't want Ubisoft to have anything to do with our country ever again. Ubisoft is a company that is sensitive to discrimination against black people, but obviously doesn't care about the discrimination against Japanese people because it practices it routinely. With the top comment being this, a simple, we fabricated the gaps in history. Oof, it is not looking good at all. But what does a big gaming YouTuber have to say? This guy is Cabbage Person. Funny name, I know, but putting jokes aside, he's actually one of the more bigger JP YouTubers covering games in Japan. And he has released a few videos regarding this Assassin's Creed Shadows kerfuffle. But I want to focus mainly on this one here with the gameplay footage. So I'm gonna peace out for a second and just let him speak.
はいどうも皆さんこんにちは、キャベツです。はい、じゃあ見ていきましょうか。アサシンクリードシャドウズゲームプレイウォークスルーちゅうことで2日前やね。今日ね6月13日なんですけれども11日に投稿されておりまして、現在64,727回再生の低評価と高評価比率がえげつないことになってるね。高評価669の8090。まあ、とりあえず開発者が言ってた史実に基づくなんとかかんとかっていうのも忘れて、ネタとして楽しむ方がいいと思うわ。うん、じゃあ見ていきましょう。楽しみっすね。結構いい感じだね。おい、ええやん。桜咲いてるってことは4月か。田植えしてるけど早ないなんか。みんな忙しそうなの。豊作で。え？まだっしょ。まだ豊作でもなくね。お辞儀してるやん。まあまあまあこの時代ね、侍さんはお偉いさんやからな。なんかこれ複雑やな。これはどうすか。お、仕分けなんかでかくね。これね多分秋田県っすね。侍さ英語喋れんのけお前。いかつガキのくせにそうせかすな小わっぱ。おばばも喋れんの。いやこの辺の生まれなわけないやん。どんな遺伝子操作すんねん。イケメンやな。でもやすけドレッドヘアでなんかヒップホップ聞いてそう。今んとこねツッコミどころしかないけどおもろそうではある。ゲームとしては。てかコンボもお前常に持ってんか。いやなんやろな、この日本人がさめちゃくちゃ頭下げていくっていうのがちょっと複雑なシーンには見えるよね。なでも景色はなんか建物の作り方とかこれどうなんやろって感じやけど、なんか変じゃない？ ちょっと高床になってね、なんかこんなもんなの。戦うの突然コンボと変えられるみたいですね。いかつお侍さん頑張って。いやーきついな、えぐいって。うわー、これは確かに日本人侍でやりたかったなって感じはあるな。すげえけどなんか牡蠣あるんやけど、なんかすごいな、季節が混合しまくってる。いやーなんかすごいな。お何これかっこええ。ほんまにアサシンクリードこれ。もうサムライクリードやん。いやーこのような悪行、いやなんかさパッと見こっちのがやつけの方が悪行してるように見えるんやけど。今の人って農民じゃないん？今 GTA やんけ。まあ戦闘はさ結構楽しそうではあるよな。まあ複雑やけどねだいぶ。システムはいっちゃう。何これきっつ。ここで直江さんが来るのか。すごいなんか悪者じゃないこっちの方がパッと見。忍べよ。てかお前忍べよ。アサシンやろ。アサシンってこんな白昼堂々と人殺してええの？すごい殺し方めっちゃアサシンじゃなかったけど、まあおもろそうやな。
Don't worry, I won't be alone. It'll be me and the shadows.
闇という味方がおる。お前闇ちゃうやろ。めっちゃ光やんけ。まあここがね今回の忍びやからね。お前忍べよちゃんと。さっきみたいに忍ばんことはない。やめろよ。いいやん。アサシンクリードっぽい。鍵縄使っていいじゃん。こういうのを見たいのよ。アサシンクリードでしょ。もうちょっとアサクリっぽいとこ見せてくれ。パルクール決めながらささっさっさって切っていくやつ。直江パートはいいな。すごいアサクリっぽい。てか朝栗っぽいっていうさこの感想がやばいよな。朝栗やもんな。やつけがちょっとサムライクリードすぎんねん。ちゃんとこれはさアサシンクリードねんから直江を生かしてくれよ。いいね。素晴らしい。藤岡というのはやつけが片付いた侍じゃな。いい君じゃ。なんかお前の喋り方変やな直江。そんなもんなんかこの時代は。こうした手合いは私の刃ではなくゆっくり苦しみながら死なしたいところじゃが、これって吹き替えにしたらどうなるんやろ。ジャガとか言うんかな。なんか嫌やな。これできんのや。マジ滑稽やな。ほんまにやってたんかなこういうのって。すごいアホっぽい今の。9本。うわ忍んでないな。忍べよもうちょっと。なんかいろんな意味で朝栗っぽくないな。逃げて上から行こう。上から奇襲しようや。そうそれを見たいのよパルクールを。いいね。風景の感じはまあ日本っぽい感じはで雰囲気は出てる。何じゃ今のカットシーン。いやツッコミどころはちょっと多かったっすけど、ゲームとしてはやってみたいかなっていう気持ちにはさせてくれてるね。アサシンクリードシャドウズ。
Okay, so now we come to the section where I try to summarize everything that I've seen so far. Does Japan care about Yasuke and Naoe being LGBTQ? No. The only time I saw that was when it was brought up as an overall statement about how the developers seemingly obviously had an interest in promoting minorities, but on the whole, they don't really care. So how about Yasuke? Do they care about him being a black samurai? No, they don't. The issue they have isn't about the existence of Yasuke and his representation in media. Rather, the problem they have is that out of all the prominent samurai throughout Japanese history, they chose him? Why did Ubisoft decide to go with someone with no real notable feats to his name other than him being a black samurai? Possibly. The problem isn't him being black. The problem is him not being Japanese. Why didn't they use the other more notable samurai that were important during his time, such as Akechi Mitsuhide, the one who actually killed Oda Nobunaga, or maybe Yukimura Sanada, or Uesugi Kenshin, or possibly the most well-known samurai of all time, Miyamoto Musashi? They felt like Ubisoft really stretched their creative liberties to use Yasuke and fictionalize his importance during the Sengoku period. And by doing so, they had committed the great sin of fictionalizing one of, if not the most important times in Japanese history, the Tenka Toitsu, the unification of Japan. Well, so what? It's just a game. What's the big deal? It might not be that big of a deal for you, but it is something that is held in real high regard in Japan. And changing it in such drastic ways is the equivalent of changing how the United States was formed, or the reasons for the Second World War, which would be fine if Ubisoft claimed it was a completely fictionalized version of Japan, but with them emphasizing the historical nature of this work, it really put a harsh spotlight for Japanese to look at this and judge it through that lens. So they looked at all the different things that they put in this game to see if they really were paying attention. And it seemed like they weren't. With basic blunders such as not getting the times of year correctly, or not understanding what a torii gate is for, it's used to mark entrances to shrines, not villages, just so you know. Mixing common symbols in Yasuke's design. These two here he's wearing are actually enemies, so it'd be weird for him to wear both of them at the same time. Making up kanji, again, this kanji here doesn't exist. And getting the tatami mat sizes incorrect. Square tatami rooms are only a very recent addition. It really makes Japanese wonder, did they even really try? Making these kinds of easy to avoid mistakes gives off the impression that this game treated Japan, Japanese culture, and Japanese history really haphazardly, which is very insulting for them. Again, to reiterate, they don't care about Yasuke being black. They don't care about the LGBTQ stuff. All they want was proper, accurate representation that they have been waiting for 15 years, and they don't feel they got it, which is why they feel so hurt and betrayed by this series. Okay, a bit of an update. It's been a few weeks now, and Japanese players are still not happy. It seems every day there's something new about Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out. And again, it's not the woke stuff. Like this video about how the developers have no intention of changing course, basically calling any and all critics racists. This video came out 5 hours ago and already has 27,000 views and over 500 comments. Or this post here about the concept art being an amalgamation of images from the Taisho and Meiji periods, even though the game itself was set in the Edo period. Things like this lead people to believe that they're just using AI to come up with their concept art. And in doing so, it led to some of the religious iconography being reversed. Not like that can cause any issues, can it? Again, in a nutshell, it's a complete and utter clusterfuck. But what Japan is angry about isn't the woke stuff, but rather they feel like their culture and their history is being handled so haphazardly. And at the same time, they feel like they're being pushed out of their own history and culture, all the while being called racist by the developers for feeling that way. The same ones who are angry about this are also the same ones that are giving praise to Ghost of Tsushima and also the Shogun TV series. I've often seen that if this was a new game being promoted as historical fiction, there wouldn't have been nearly as much outrage. But as I said, with Ubisoft promoting the historical accuracy of this game and also making one of the main protagonists not Japanese, well, here we are. I hope that clears things up and that we now all understand where they're coming from. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section and I will do my best to get back to you and respond as quickly as possible. So until next time, I will see you in the next video. Peace.